Okay, so here we are in our SU-25T Frogfoot. We're going to do a takeoff, a go around and a landing. We're just taxiing away to the runway now, where we'll get ready for takeoff. The SU-25T is a ground attack aircraft used for supporting forward troops. It's quite a heavy and slow aircraft, so kind of wallows around a bit in the sky. Anyway, here we come. We'll come to the runway. We'll just hold ourselves for a second. We'll put our brakes on. We'll spool up to about 10,000 revs and go for takeoff. Right, here we go. Flaps to landing but takeoff position. Brakes on. Thrust. Okay, 10,000 revs. Release the brakes and away we go. We're going to roll till about 240 knots. At which point we're going to rotate to about 10 degrees and let the aircraft take itself into the air. Go. Up we go. Gear up. Flaps up. It's a strange beast, this plane. It generates quite a bit of lift, so does want to rise quite quickly, but also at the same time it's very heavy. If you come off the speed too much, it just wants to fall out of the sky. So coming into a landing where you're going at a relatively slow speed, it's a bit of a fight to keep it in the air. Currently we are not got any weapons attached. We do have a full fuel load, so we're relatively light. Bringing this plane into land with a full load is really difficult. Okay, so we're just going to get ourselves away from the airport and make a left turn back around to Dubai International. We need to try and keep a relatively good height. As I said, the plane will try and drop quite rapidly if we let it, but at the same time, if we're not careful, we can climb too quickly and risk a stall. So a nice gentle turn. As you see, we're climbing a bit too high, so I'm trying to trim to stop that nose from going up. Visibility in this aircraft is not very good. It sits quite high on its rear wheels and the nose is quite high, so it's very difficult to see out of the front of the cockpit. So whereas normally you'd land with quite a reasonably high angle of attack, you can't really do that in this plane because you won't be able to see anything. So you've got to come in quite shallow, which has other problems in the fact that you're not losing speed so much. But as I said, this aircraft doesn't really have that problem. Also, the bulkheads get in the way when you try and look behind you. It's really not great aircraft vision to see out of. Anyway, we're coming back round to Dubai International. We're going to level off, fly over the airfield and make a left turn into our final approach. Into our base leg, I should say. Okay, we gained a little bit too much height there. So we're now at 2,100 feet. I'm fighting to try and stop it from climbing. I'm also going a little fast, so I'm going to use this turn to the left over the airport to try and lose some height and lose some speed. The aircraft does have a landing assist system, which basically will guide you into the right down to the tarmac. In fact, I'm not using it today. Generally that's used for poor visibility conditions. As you can see, its visibility is very good today in Dubai. So here we go, we're turning in to our base leg now. Not doing a great job of losing the speed, but we are getting rid of some of the height. Okay, so once we level off, we'll be able to get rid of some of that speed, probably a little fast. Okay, this is one of the free aircraft in DCS World. DCS World itself is free as well, so this is one of the aircraft you'll be flying if you got that. It's not one of the high fidelity aircraft. It's got a high fidelity flight model, but you can't interact with the cockpit as you can with other planes in DCS World. So all the controls are either keyboard shortcuts or assigned to the joystick and throttle systems. I'm also using my new joystick today. I'm still getting used to it. It's like learning to fly all over again. Okay, try and lose some speed. Don't really want to put the air brakes on, as that drastically affects the speed, and I don't want to lose too much height. We're already starting to lose a bit of height, so once you start going down it's quite difficult to prevent that from happening. So keeping the nose up, I'm going to try and keep as much height as possible. I'm going to lose some more in this final turn into the approach. Normally I would just use trim to manage this, but this aircraft I'm having to use a stick a bit more than normal. Again, I'm losing a lot of height. It gets to the point where it just doesn't seem to want to climb, and you've really got to force it up. I'm using some throttle as well to try and help us through this turn. Still sinking at a fair rate or not? Oh, we're going, okay, we got it now. We're going back up again. As I said, you need to keep the approach quite shallow in this plane, just from a visibility perspective. I suspect if you're using the assisted landing system, you maybe could get away with a higher angle of attack. Okay, so that's gear and flaps out. Just going to let it settle. Flaps will give us a bit of lift. Just need to counter that with some trim. Okay, there's the runway to our right. And now it's just a case of guiding the aircraft into the runway. You can see we're going quite slow now. Any slower than this and we're going to stall, or at least drop out of the sky if we don't stall first. So we're just trying to keep it nose up, heading for the runway, and then essentially we're just going to stall it into the runway. Once we get over the threshold, we'll just cut the engines, we'll flare up so that our back wheels touch the runway first, and then release our parachute. coming in. We're at a slight angle, so we're going to correct that when we get near the runway. Okay, so again I'm using trim just to keep the nose up. Don't want it, as I said, don't want it too far up because then we will not see the runway, but I also don't want the nose to go too far down because that way we'll just go straight into the ground. So here we go. Coming in. Okay, so we're going to correct at the last minute to get our position on the runway. Here we go. Right, just going to go left a little, right a little bit. We're starting to flare. Let's flare. Not too much, just a little bit of a flare. Okay, there we go. Rear wheel's down, front wheel down, parachute out. There we go. Parachute's gone. Okay. Some brakes. Get rid of the parachute. Is it gone? Yeah, it's gone. And then we'll just swing off the runway.
101. Заруливайте на стоянку.
There we go, and that's it. Takeoff, circuit, a landing in the SU-25T Frogfoot. Okay, thanks very much, and see you next time.